Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Munodiwa, and this is Casual Chaps, where we talk all things home to interior design and everything in between. Today, I am going to talk about how to choose the perfect coffee table to go in your living room. By the end of this video, you will learn a couple of things, but mainly, one, which shape of coffee table will work best in your room. 2, what width and height do you have to be aware of, and why it is important to take note of these dimensions. And lastly, what material of coffee table should you choose, or what material should the coffee table be made out of? I have a small confession to make. I think my favorite room out of all the rooms in our apartment is the living room. I have to admit that it might just be my favorite. This is because, in my opinion, of course, the living room is the place within the home where we have made the most memories so far. We have been lounging with friends, watching cool movies or series, catching up with some personal stuff that do not necessarily need me to be sitting at a workstation, and even taking calls with my family who live far away from me. So I have to admit that I really just love the living room. Besides that, it is important that the living room accommodates all your needs and makes you really feel comfortable. I'm sure you can relate with me that the living room is pretty much the hub of the home. One important element of the living room, which can help you achieve this feeling of comfortability and coziness being at home, is some element that you might not think is so important but actually plays a big role, and that is the coffee table. It's true that you might not really think that it's important. You might even think, the coffee table is just a sidekick to the sofa. You might think the sofa is the highlight of the living room, but that is not entirely correct. The coffee table is more like the yin to the yang. Imagine if you had to hold your cocktail or even your hot chocolate in your hands the whole time. Definitely the living room wouldn't be as comfortable as it is. Or imagine if you had no place where you can store your remote controls, or where you can maybe show off that beautiful bouquet of flowers that you received from a loving and dear friend. I hope it is now apparent to you how important the coffee table is and what vital role it actually plays. And the coffee table is actually not just playing a functional role, but actually it is important in also the decorative part, meaning it is important to ground and anchor the space. Imagine if you have a large living room. This large living room, if you don't have a coffee table, the furniture pieces might otherwise look scattered and just simply placed in the room. But the coffee table is what brings it together. The coffee table does not only play a functional role, like I mentioned earlier, of holding drinks or storing remotes, but it is also important in making sure that your space looks grounded and anchored. Imagine if you have a very large living room and you have a couple of sofas and maybe armchairs. Everything will look scattered and just placed randomly. But the coffee table put in the center will really tie in the pieces together and make them look like one composition. Let us consider the type of room that you have before you make the decision on what kind of coffee table you want to buy. I want you to ask yourself the following questions. What exactly is the focal point of the room? Oftentimes you will hear that, a rug can be what centers the room. You can even hear that the sofa is also the center of attention. But the coffee table can equally become the focal point in a room. This is a decision that you will have to make. If you have a very busy rug, for example, then you might need a simple coffee table to balance everything out. Or alternatively, you could also make the coffee table the focal point, and you can do this by choosing something very unique and outstanding and spectacular, something that people have never seen before. And that way, you can easily make it the focal point. If you're finding this video useful, I would appreciate it if you leave me a big fat thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I want you to ask yourself, what is the purpose of the living room? Is it maybe more of a formal living room? Or is it a family room where you expect to lounge with your family and just take it easy at the end of the day? Obviously, if it is for family use, then you might want to choose a table which is more child-friendly. But in a formal living room, on the other hand, you could gladly choose a glass rectangle coffee table, which might be challenging in a family room because it is not only fragile, but it is also easy to get marks on. And if you have kids, this might be something you really want to keep in mind. You also want to think about the size and the shape of the living room. There are some coffee tables which will work best in a small room, and there are some coffee tables which will work best in a larger room, as I will explain very soon. Now, let's talk all the details about the shape. At this point, we now know what kind of vibe the living room is going to be. For example, is it going to be formal, or is it going to be a family room or something else? We also know how big the room is. So now we have to think about the shape of the table. Instead of just aimlessly scrolling through your favorite furniture shop, hoping that your favorite coffee table will catch your eye, what you want to do is to first consider the space where you want to put the coffee table, and then choose one that will fit accordingly to your space. So let's talk about the round coffee table. A round coffee table will work best in a small living room. A round table here is a great choice because it will make getting around easier since there are no corners or edges which you might bump into. And it is still very functional. A round table can also be a great option if you have a bigger room, if you want to soften the space and add some interest. Usually, most of the furniture in the living room tends to be very rectangular. I mean, imagine the sofa, usually rectangular, the TV console, also usually rectangular, and armchairs, which aren't exactly rectangular, but you get my point. So to soften up all these lines and edges, this is when a round coffee table comes in, which will really balance everything out. But if you're thinking that a round coffee table will not offer you as much surface area as you might need, a good solution for that would be to use 2 or 3 coffee tables clustered together to form one composition. This is what we call coffee table nesting. If you're going to nest your coffee table, then in order to make this composition interesting, you have to vary the heights of the tables. You can even choose 2 different finishes or 2 different tabletops. This will really make everything look beautiful and unique, but without too much repetition, so much so that it becomes dull. Remember that you need to make everything harmonious. This means that the base shape of the coffee table has to be similar. This way, the space looks balanced and it looks like it belongs together. If you want other ways to make your home look and feel cozy, then I encourage you to look into this video for more information. Let's talk about the square shape. If you have an L sectional, then a square coffee table might be your best choice. This is because it will really nestle perfectly with the sofa. If you want to have symmetrical balance in your living room, a square shape will really help you achieve this, since it can be evenly divided whilst still sticking to symmetry. Let's talk about the oval shape. If you have a long room and yet you still want enough surface space on the table, then an oval coffee table will work best. It will soften up the rectangular shape of the room as well as the rectangular shape of the sofa, whilst at the same time giving you ample access to the table from all angles, which a round table might not really be able to achieve. Since an oval table has no sharp edges, it will really work best in a family living room as well. If you want the focal point and centerpiece of your living room to be the coffee table, then there's no other form or shape of a coffee table that you should consider than abstract. This is because an abstract coffee table has no rules that you have to follow. It is entirely up to you. And it is a great choice because you will really be able to show off your unique personal taste as well as style. If you've been on many travels, maybe you have curious objects that you could actually cluster together to form a very unique coffee table. Odd shapes like triangular shapes or even hexagons can really add another dimension to the look and the feel of the room. And odd-shaped coffee tables go well with regular-sized sofas or even modular sectionals. I have seen people who have used huge African drums, tree trunks, or even sculptured stones as coffee tables, and all these were very unique and different. It really brings your personal perspective into the space, and it is like a breath of fresh air. So for a choice, I would say here, just unleash your creativity and let it lead the way. Now, let's talk about the perfect dimensions of a coffee table, the width and the height. Firstly, it is important for you to remember that interior design cannot be good unless it takes into consideration ergonomics. So now that we know the shape of the coffee table that we're going for, we need to make sure that the choice we end up going for will support its function well. Finding the right height and width is majorly tied to how the coffee table will pair with the dimension of your sofa. This obviously means that you cannot choose a coffee table before you have chosen your sofa. Talk about the length. Generally speaking, the longer your sofa, the longer your coffee table should also be. It is all about balance. Think about it. You want people who are sitting in the far ends of the sofa to be able to reach easily to the coffee table. And you want this to be the same as people who are maybe sitting in the middle of the sofa. Your coffee table should be at least 2/3 the length of the sofa. But at the same time, it should not be so long that it blocks the flow of the traffic. Nor should it be too long than the length of the sofa. Do not go lower than 7 centimeters below or 2 centimeters above your sofa seat. Remember, this is not a desk where you have to write on or where you have to type. So your coffee table doesn't have to be too high. And it doesn't also have to be too low. It's not a footstool where you want to put your legs onto. And it doesn't have to be that close to the ground. Placement. So where exactly should we place our coffee table? Keep the coffee table about 37 centimeters from the sofa to give you adequate space to walk around it. If you have kids, then they are really going to need space to be running around and playing. So you really don't want your coffee table to be too close or too tight to the sofa. Material. Now, to finish everything off, you really want to consider your lifestyle and how you're going to be using your coffee table. So, I want you to ask yourself the following questions. Do I like to put up my feet up after a long day? If your answer is yes, then an Ottoman will work best because it is soft and it will still provide you with the functionality that a coffee table does. Do you have kids? Then maybe you want to avoid a coffee table made out of glass. Do you need storage space and want to keep everything organized? Then pick a style with extra storage built in. Let's discuss some different materials that you can consider. Wood. If you want to bring in a feeling of texture and natural warmth to the room, then wood is going to be your material of choice. Darker woods such as mahogany or even teak can look great in a traditional living room. Metal. Is your style industrial? Or maybe are you more concerned about the durability of your table? Then in this case, metal could just be your answer because it offers a range of finishes which are also design forward and can present you with contrast within your space. Upholstery. If you're looking for something inviting, which also creates a softer landing for active kids, then you might want to consider an upholstered coffee table. Stone. If your style is modern and contemporary, and maybe you want something that will work in an indoor and an outdoor space, then stone could just be your material of choice. Marble. Marble really offers some beautiful natural colors which can really set a luxurious and luminous home, perfect even for a formal living room. Glass and acrylic. If you have a small living room, then glass will help you to create an open and airy feeling without really compromising on the function of the table. Glass tables also work in a modern and contemporary room. Some extra tips that you might want to consider. For example, lift tops. If you want to work from home in the comfort of your living room, sitting on your couch, then a lift top coffee table will be great for that. This table has an extra top layer that lifts up and moves towards you, thus allowing you to use your laptop comfortably or even write or eat a pizza while still enjoying the comfort of your sofa. Typically, lift top coffee tables are square and they're usually made out of wood. Another type of coffee table you might want to consider is an Ottoman, which I've spoken about earlier. Man, I just love Ottomans. They work great as coffee tables because they really have a lot of functionalities in one. They also provide you with some extra storage underneath. They can be used as extra seating, and to top it all off, as if this is all not enough, you can use it to lift your legs onto it and enjoy some comfortable support underneath. Perfect, right? To round up this video, before you buy a new coffee table, you want to consider what the intended use of the coffee table will be. For example, is it going to be in a formal living room or it's going to be in a family casual room? You also want to consider what kind of space you have. Is it a big rectangular room or maybe a smaller intimate room? This will help you determine the shape of the table. Then remember to buy one which has good proportions and is made out of the appropriate material that matches your interior design style.